These kids left us very little to go on. It was all the dog. We caught very little actual shoe prints, you know, tracks in the mud or the grass or whatever.
There are no water slides in Bayfield, no theme parks, no fast food restaurants, no traffic lights, and with the exception of October's Apple Fest,
Help someone.
Tempers among the Northland's gay, lesbian, and bisexual community are flaring. Angry members gathered today at Duluth's City Hall to protest Mayor Gary Doty's refusal to recognize the group's annual Pride Week. Members say their celebration is being marred by the need for a public protest against what they call exclusion.
I think by going out and stating that he's against it is kind of saying he's against gays and lesbians.
Both Doty and Superior Mayor Herb Berkson are refusing to recognize the Pride Week. Doty says he has never commended the gay community, and in a letter to the Twin Ports Pride Committee, he says he sees no need to declare a special week for a group not excluded from society's mainstream. And it's Doty's refusal to recognize the Northland's gays, lesbians, and bisexuals as a minority group that has many outraged. And with today's protest, they hope to send a strong message to local politicians.
But we have historically been kept out of the mainstream by the kind of discrimination that Mayor Doty has been displaying this past week.
And while Superior Mayor Berkson is also refusing to recognize the Pride Week, he says he supports the group in other ways. Yesterday, he commended the gay, lesbian, and bisexual community on its contribution to area youth. Still, some say it's not enough.
There's a movement in this country. Duluth is not excluded from that movement. Gay and lesbian people and bisexual people in this community realize that they are an important part of the community, and we are going to stand for discrimination and exclusion no longer.
Gay, les, bi, straight, homophobia is what we hate.
In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
As a Board of Education, you've been willing to take that ability to just. Out of that particular commitment circle, it would be a mistake. And I continue to work towards better ratings. What I'd like to do is talk and work together and create win-win kinds of situations. And I think that the diagram that I used several times in strategic planning, each one of us has turf, including myself. We have to learn to do that. We have to be a model for the community. We have to show control. And I think we have program specialists in district finances, because that's really what it is. There is a win-win solution. If we
Hey-ho, I feel so fine, looking out across the orchard in the bright sunshine. Hey-ho, I feel so free, standing top of an apple tree. Hey-ho, I feel so fine, looking out across the orchard in the bright sunshine. Hey-ho, I feel so free, standing at the top of an apple tree. Up in the
We don't want the oranges and the reds at a Tanger Mall. You drive down the highway and you see those.
Would be just off the map here. So this is the main area.
Every retail developer that talks about their project always says there's plenty of room in the marketplace. And if that were true, of course, there'd never be an empty shopping center. And as we know, nationwide, there's a lot of empty shopping centers. So we have some questions about the size of the overall market.
There may be a point at which they, and it may be right now, is that the parties need a third person to enter the discussions and bring them together and find common ground to bring about a resolution of the issues, and I'd be happy to play that role if they invite me in.
"54-year-old Dave Watmo hails from Hamilton, Ontario. He loves radio. He's a big fan. I mean, would you cover any vehicle you owned with 1,600 stickers from radio stations around North America? Dave has. His 1972 Chevy van is living proof of a hobby that began 25 years ago. The stickers are all arranged geographically. Driver's side east of the Mississippi, the passenger side the western half of the continent. I found this one to be my personal favorite. As for Dave,
got these two from Eugene, Oregon, Cash and KSND. And this one's rather unique, Bozeman's Cube, shaped like a Rubik's Cube.
what must people think when they drive by you on the highway?
There have been about 3 times so far that I've had a car pull up next to me on the interstate. Instead of him going right by me, he just stays there, and I turn and look, and there's somebody in the passenger seat with a camera taking a picture.
This isn't Dave's first trip through Duluth. He's been here 3 times, but this is the first time Dave has stopped. We found him at WDSM KZIO studios, collecting more mementos of his travels. There's room on the van for a few more stickers, but it's getting tight. So if you're heading west, don't be surprised if you see Dave and his van with its 148,000 miles and counting on the highway. Oh, you'll have to honk. He will be listening for the next radio station to visit.
Garbage haulers are contending they need a 14 points.
People are recycling, and they're, even according to the studies, they're having less and less garbage because they're recycling, and yet and getting less service, and it's costing more and more.
Yes, that is a driver on the far right of your screen. This truck is big.
Bigger motor, bigger tires, bigger everything.
How big is it? Well, for starters, the bed holds 240 tons, that's right, tons of rock, 10 times more than previous models. It's the first 240-ton truck to work the Iron Range. Total weight filled with rock, 415 tons. Operators say it's like driving a house. A 2,160 horsepower engine powers this monstrosity, with over 1,000 gallons of fuel on 10-foot tall tires. Oh, and there is one more big number.
When I change the oil in my car, it takes about 4 quarts, or 1 gallon. You want to change the oil in this, you're going to need a big drip pan, 56 gallons.
In fact, it's so big, safety has become a big priority. The driver's field of vision is narrow, and it's almost impossible to feel the ground below.
Backing into something is a different story. I mean, if you've got a vehicle or something behind you, you can't even feel it if you were to run into it. You wouldn't even know it.
But the truck does its job well. It's a $1.7 million investment, one U.S. Steel makes willingly.
Well, it's a commitment we've got to make to keep competitive in the industry today. I mean, we need new equipment, and we need bigger equipment to move our overburden, at the lowest possible price.
Mintac Mine is running 3 shifts, keeping production up and using the new truck around the clock. 2 more will be hauling rock by Christmas time. Caterpillar is designing an even bigger truck, but Mintac says a 415 truck with $15,000 tires is probably big enough. At the Mintac Mine, Derek Hines, News 6.
It's been a year, and life still isn't back to normal for the Leibels and other families living in the red zone.
The fear. They're living in fear of what if. what if? What if? Then you didn't. You didn't. The kids could come and go and do as they wanted to a certain extent. They could ride their bikes and ride the ATV on the trails. They could run outside in their barefoot. I could cook with the water. I could clean different things with the, now and drink the water. Now we don't.
The Libels think about Toxic Tuesday every day, though for many people in the Northland, the benzene spill and evacuation were little more than an inconvenience. After thousands of Northlanders collected claim checks from Burlington Northern, Toxic Tuesday was forgotten. But questions remain in the red zone, such as why have the children become sick?
There is people with health problems. There is young children having health problems. And they can't give us any answers definite that there isn't any long-term effects. And I think to that the people out here should be taken into consideration for that.
Penny Libel worries about her family's health.
How long is the range, is the time? Is this going to affect our health in 20 years down the road? Is one of us going to get cancer? Is one of us going to get leukemia? Is one of us going to get something that, they say, oh yes, this is caused from that spill that happened 20 years ago?
They're still waiting to see if the federal government will do a health survey of the red zone. And then there's the question of property value. Here's an appraisal report on one house located in the red zone. It says right on the report that a toxic benzene spill occurred nearby.
If you have to do this and you want to sell your home, and somebody from outside of the area would say, toxic, just the word toxic seems to frighten them.
And the question of compensation remains. Red zone residents were paid for out-of-pocket expenses during the evacuation, but many are still in litigation over long-term effects. A year later in the red zone, Toxic Tuesday is not being forgotten. South of Superior, Dave Jench, News 6.
Ray and Dallas Hurd of Wright, Minnesota have found a flower lover's paradise, a field scattered with pink lady slippers for nearly 3 acres.
Well, we were logging here and we moved into this new area and there they were. As far as you could see, there was nothing but flowers.
The state flower thrives in low, swampy areas and is extremely rare.
But I've logged for 42 years and I've never seen nothing like this.
Since the flower is so rare, you can look, but don't touch, or you could be fined up to $700.
Well, the showy lady slipper is a protected species in Minnesota, which means that cannot be picked, plucked, dug up, or disturbed in any manner on either public or private property.
Many Minnesotans rarely, if ever, see the pink lady slipper in their lifetimes, and the state plans to protect the endangered flower so more Minnesotans can enjoy their beauty for a long time. By the way, don't ask the Hurds where their field is. They're not telling anyone. Near Aiken, Amy Cook, News 6.
The player that normally plays $1 are playing 5 and 10 at this time. Your people that normally play 5 and 10 are maybe playing 20 to 50. So the numbers have increased dramatically.
While recent flooding here in Minnesota is damaging local farms and homes, the economy is taking a soaking as well. Hundreds of tourists are canceling reservations in all parts of Minnesota, including those not directly affected by the flooding.
Like you say, when you watch out on the weather map, it's only that far from where the flood is to where we are, and so people kind of make that jump, that leap, that we're involved in it also.
Minnesota is starting to get a reputation nationwide for its bad weather. This is the second summer of extensive flooding, and many businesses along the North Shore that depend on the tourism dollar for survival are starting to feel the impact.
If you're in a business that depends on off-road clientele, then you'll have a major loss of business.
Tourism officials say out-of-state tourists are canceling reservations as far north as Brainerd and Ely. Regular visitors to Minnesota are used to some foul weather, but the national attention the state is getting from the flooding is starting to scare potential tourists away.
There's always those that we never get to talk to, those that see it on television and they don't call, they don't ask what the situation is. And so you don't get a chance to talk to them and make your pitch for Minnesota. And so you lose those before you ever have a chance.
Although all of Minnesota is experiencing severe weather, so far only the lower third of the state has reached the flood stage, with many streams in the Northland rising. And with more bad weather on the way, the fate of the tourism industry in Minnesota may rest with the next weather forecast.
So we don't want anyone not to run for office just because they'd be coming in, they think they might be coming into the process all by themselves. There's help available. And anyone that will take the taxpayer issues and concerns to office with them, we're more than willing to help.
But it's not leaving the area.
Work with. It's always a thrill to get down to Spooner and cover your wonderful yearly event.
And we greatly appreciate working with Channel 6, and really a pleasure to give you this plaque for all your help.
It's not that full. It is not up to code. It doesn't have proper ventilation. It should either be remodeled or closed. And having the shelter, the 5,000 square foot shelter we have out here in the county, right on the edge of town, there's no reason for them not to close it and save the people money.
Caleb Ketchum and Peter Ward spotted the full-grown eagle at their favorite fishing hole on Coffee Lake. It was struggling in the water, and the boys took action.
He chased it up onto shore, and then it tried to fly off this higher ground, and it sort of rolled down, and he threw his shirt around its talons, and then it sort of fell over, and he held it down with a stick lightly, and I put my shirt around his head.
I saw it on television once. Some rangers were out in the wild, and I just saw how they caught it. They made sure the talons were covered up and its head got covered, and they said it would be calmer when its head got covered up. So I just did what I saw.
The bald eagle is an endangered species. The Department of Natural Resources does not normally encourage people to pick up animals in the field.
If an animal allows this, it was evidently, easy enough to, be taken, and that it did need to require some medical attention or some assistance. Mm-hmm. And I believe that they did the right thing in this instance.
Several pairs of bald eagles nest in the Moose Lake area. In fact, they're growing in number. After a medical examination, it was determined this male eagle may have simply crash-landed in the lake while fishing. The exam revealed no broken bones or injury. Several hours later, when the bird became agitated, the decision was made to set it free.
If they would have left it in the cage, it would have harmed itself. It was best to let it out. Mm-hmm. So I agree with the doctor. He should have been let out, yeah.
Shortly after its release, the eagle made its way to the lake and flew to a nearby island. The next day, it was gone. It's believed the bird returned to its nesting grounds and its mate, which had been spotted flying over the island. Near Moose Lake, Derek Hines, News 6.
Jenny Gustafson and her mother have been living in a motel room now for 3 days with no end in sight. Their Bowman Lake Road home is still threatened by water. When Island Lake overflowed its banks, it left water several feet deep, flooding 24 homes. The state and county only provide emergency aid when at least 25 homes are damaged. Bureaucratic red tape that has entangled the Gustafsons.
I can accept some flooding, but not to this extent, and not with any help from the Cohen.
Water from the heavy rains has been building along the St. Louis River chain for weeks, but there was nothing the family could do to prepare.
We found out about when water started coming up, she called MP&L for him. And he goes, well, we had to open up the dam to relieve the pressure on it. And we were still unaware of how much water was going to come.
What came was countless gallons of water from Island Lake, filling basements, washing out roads, and contaminating drinking water. The water has begun to recede, and the Gustafsons can now reach their home, but the health department says the water is unsafe, so they remain in the motel. The Red Cross has tried to help with some food.
Ultimately, it's the client, the person that has the problems, to be responsible for helping themselves. All of our money, all of our gifts are donated, and we give those back for free. We don't charge anybody any services.
The Gustafsons say they are fortunate to at least have a roof over their heads and some food for the time being. Now they just have to wait for the water to retreat so they can go home. Near Island Lake, Barbara Riles, News 6.
At the far western edge of Europe lies a serene, tranquil, wild, willful and rugged island.
Unfortunately, this is what the world generally sees when there's any news about the Emerald Island. Troops in place following another bombing incident as Protestants and Catholics once again continue their war of hatred in Northern Ireland. They call their conflict the Troubles. Northern Ireland is still a part of the United Kingdom and considered quite separate from the rest of the island. 20 years ago, the Rotary Club of Hibbing decided to give children in Northern Ireland a summer vacation from the Troubles. Hibbing's Rotary is no longer involved in the project, but each summer the program that took its place, the Children's Program of Northern Ireland, continues to bring 100 Protestant and Catholic children to Minnesota each summer.
We clearly feel that we've impacted people's individual lives.
Don Smith of Monticello now heads the effort to get kids out of Northern Ireland, 3,000 in the past 20 years.
We know that kids that may not have gone on to higher education, or children that could have got swept up in the violence, swept up in the paramilitary organizations, haven't because of what they saw in America.
In Northern Ireland, the schools play an important part in the children that are selected for the American experience. Protestant and Catholic children actually getting together to share experiences, attempts to bridge the religious differences that keep their elders so violently apart. Tomorrow night, we'll introduce you to 11-year-old Andrea Lowe, spending her summer on the Iron Range with a family that is continuing the efforts begun 20 years ago in Hibbing. A unique world linkage that provides children of the Troubles with a summer of memories.
Music.
Oh yeah, that's right. The real people who live here, the most of the people in our community. And I was interested in exploring the viability of myself as a candidate and what people are concerned about. Could I represent those things? And everything I learned was very exciting.
There's a 10K and also a 50K distance, and it was done with pledge sheets. It's a fundraiser, as I mentioned, and had a pretty good turnout for the first time.
Mr. Greg Gilbert, a local attorney and a longtime, very upstanding citizen of the community.
And he will introduce the candidates. These 3 candidates or so have come to us and talked about the things that are going to matter to the taxpayers. And we will do everything at Fight that we can to make that possible. So let's give these people a fighting chance.
We have probably sold over about 500 or 600 walks. Now, I don't know whether they're all going to show up to walk or not, but they put their money in the pot. That was really the need we needed to help the community here before we leave.
I want to wake up in a city that never sleeps.
It's an all too familiar tune for emergency workers. They make up a large share of our nation's 20 million shift workers. We depend on them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to respond at a moment's notice. At the 911 Communications Center in St. Louis County, the graveyard shift is their busiest time. Dispatchers handle calls ranging from shootings to fires. All require split-second decisions. It's a high-pressure job, made all the more stressful by the hours workers keep. Barbara Crocker has worked the night shift for 15 years.
I'm not sure if you get used to it or not. Medical science says that you're doing your body a bad deed by continuing to work shift work and switching back and forth between our day shift and our midnight shift.
What do you think is the hardest part about working a night shift?
Probably sleeping. Get home at 7 o'clock, depending on what type of night it's been. Sometimes you just can't unwind.
That's a common complaint among shift workers. It has to do with our circadian rhythms, an internal clock that tells our bodies when to sleep. And when that pattern becomes disrupted, it leaves many shift workers feeling out of sync. They're just getting to bed when the rest of the world is getting up.
Dr. Peter Franklin treats patients with sleep disorders.
And when that happens, you decrease the amount of sleep that you get,
and the sleep that you get is more fragmented, more interrupted, so it's a lot less refreshing.
Franklin says as a result, shift workers are more likely to suffer depression, burnout, nausea, and fatigue. And more seriously, sleepy workers present a danger, not only to themselves, but to others as well.
People who are excessively sleepy or pathologically sleepy, and it can get to that point, have much higher incidence of motor vehicle accidents and industrial accidents and falling asleep on the job.
It's got a bump on
911.
It can also cause problems at home, where workers must choose between sleep and spending time with the family. Tom Butler has 2 small children.
Little ones don't understand it, but the wife does.
But there are ways to cope. Recently, 911 dispatchers switched from 8-hour days to 10, allowing them more time off.
Everyone's real pleased with it. And if you've worked this weekend, then you know you have the next weekend off. It's, you've always got something to look forward to.
The United States is one of the few countries with no national shift work policy. But as their numbers increase, experts say we can no longer afford to ignore these safety and health issues.
That's it. Good night.
Good night.
We're close at purchasing our van, and we're using this as our main fundraiser, and we'll continue to have this even after we do purchase our van because it's such a great activity for everybody.
Look at you! I'm fine. Oh. Hi, Papa. Thank you. How are you? How are you? Have you shot?
Today, officials from the East Range Clinic in Virginia took the first step toward building a stronger future for their facility when they broke ground on a $1.6 million expansion and renovation project. It includes 15 new examination rooms, expansion of the clinic's laboratory with a higher emphasis placed on family practice services. The project had been on hold after the clinic lost several physicians through retirement.
Recruiting was one of our major concerns, and of course, we don't need a new building if we can't find physicians to staff it.
But those concerns vanished when, after intense recruiting efforts, the clinic was able to fill the vacated positions and beyond. In fact, the clinic plans to increase the number of doctors working there from 31 to 50 over the next 5 years.
I think it can't help but show to a potential recruit that indeed we have a viable business, that indeed we get along with the community, and that we fit in.
And fitting in more comfortably is important to doctors like Wayne Kanuski. Recruited from Michigan, he's been working in cramped quarters for the past 3 years. He says the prospect of a more modern, spacious facility is not only key to bringing more doctors to the range, but to keeping those already here as well.
I think patients will be more comfortable with with a larger space and with us not being quite so crowded. I also, with the hopes that it's going to improve our recruitment, certainly we want to be able to improve service.
The project is expected to be completed by July of 1994. In Virginia, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
want you to hang back too. All right? You got
very frustrating at times. I mean, we knew we were in a dangerous situation, and we knew that the public was being exposed on this incident, and we knew that the potential for them to get killed or somebody to be seriously injured or killed was going to present itself sooner or later. You know, on the other hand, we have an obligation to try to stop these kinds of people before they do that kind of stuff.
You're there in the dentist's chair and he asks, have you been drinking a lot of coffee? Your teeth are stained. You automatically think coffee and tea must be damaging to teeth. But according to a new study, that's not the case. In fact, tea and coffee and even beer have shown evidence of preventing the formation of plaque.
They do offer some benefits. They will neutralize some of the acids that are going on in the mouth and some of the damage that can occur, and they will soften up some of the plaque layers sometimes even on the teeth to help remove them.
And conversely, many of the foods we considered good for us are on the Wisconsin Dental Association's list of no-nos. Among the biggest surprises, bananas, raisins, and cereal are listed as foods to avoid when it comes to protecting our teeth.
They'll stick to the teeth quite tenaciously and provide a substrate for that bacteria and a food for that bacteria to cause quite a bit of damage.
The Wisconsin Dental Association published this list of tooth-friendly foods and foods to avoid. Some hints in the study include a warning against sipping soda, even diet drinks, all day, saying they can erode essential tooth enamel. The study recommends eating cheese as a snack and at mealtime because it can help counter the effects of acid. The Wisconsin Dental Association says the more we know about what's good and what's bad for our teeth, the more we'll be able to protect them. And they point out the better health habits we teach our children, the healthier their teeth and gums will be as adults. In Superior, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Thousands of Northlanders are converging on Duluth's Bayfront Park this weekend for Taste North 93. The event has been held for the past 6 years as a way for area food businesses to bring their specialties to the public.
What's special about it is that the quality of the food is so high, and everybody serves it in small portions at affordable prices, so people can go around and taste everything, not get completely filled up until the end of the day.
The event is modeled after other food festivals like the Taste of Minnesota in St. Paul as a way to promote food establishments from all over the Northland. The event has grown over the years and now includes music and entertainment and, of course, food. Last year's event was canceled, but now organizers hope to hold Taste North annually. Most of the foods here can be sampled for $1, and any food vendor here will tell you they love the exposure.
I've been down here a few times myself and never really thought I'd have the chance to participate in it until we built our barbecue, and it's worked out pretty good.
Organizers are calling this year's Taste North the best ever. The event sold out all of its food booths, along with providing live entertainment throughout the afternoon. The festival wraps up tomorrow night, and organizers promise next year's will be even bigger and better. In Duluth, Derek Hines, News 6.
It appears at this time to be a domestic involving the 55-year-old Duluth female. The people from Kenosha, Wisconsin happen to be visiting.
people with such desperate need, and I was so overwhelmed by it. And I'm staying home here, high and dry and safe, and planting flowers in the garden, and I thought there's got to be something more that I can do with.
I'm a little nervous. I'm glad, and the training has really helped a lot more than I expected. You know, I feel more prepared about going down there and being able to help people. I think it's going to be fun.
They were flying they had 4 aircraft up there, and he was the bad guy. They were doing some air combat maneuvering. He experienced engine problems, felt the engine bang, was losing altitude and airspeed, and the procedures at that point in time were to jettison the centerline tank.
The powwow has long been a celebration of Native American heritage, but many attending this powwow near Sawyer are also celebrating another year of being clean and sober. The Nemiwin Alcohol and Drug Abuse Treatment Center on the Fond du Lac Reservation has spent the last 15 years helping Native Americans put their lives back together, a job officials will tell you is not easy.
One of the best predictors of continuous sobriety is an intact job, a family standing in a community. And the people that we see don't have those attributes. They don't have homes, they don't have intact families, they don't have jobs. So to sober up this type of population is a difficult task.
The center has a 45% success rate and has helped about 8,000 people with both the treatment center and a halfway house in Duluth. The sobriety powwow is held every year to bring together those whose lives have been affected by substance abuse, either directly or indirectly.
My son. I have a lot of relatives. I know they've come through here. I know of a lot of people that have long length sobriety, even though I know one of the parts of maintaining sobriety is that you live one day at a time.
3,000 people participated in the 15th annual sobriety powwow today, and many here look forward to having something to celebrate again next year. On the Fond du Lac Reservation, Derek Hines, News 6.
Yeah, there's storing stuff around here. The plant itself is, for economic reasons, you know, is an asset to the city. You know, I mean, if there was to close, you're talking another 200 and some jobs, which I feel the city really can't lose.
the Blues Festival is going to be Fridays. The future of this city is not going to be an outlet mall adjacent right here, but the future of the city is going to be the beauty of it.
So when you get into something that's unique, like a downtown streetscape, there is maybe some changes that need to be done after a while. If you get to a point where you say, well, that's just not needed.
Well, I don't think too good, but I'm a grandma, and I'm here with my grandchildren, and he has asthma and his mother has asthma, so it's pretty convenient when they can come right there. But boy, if they close it, I don't know what, it's a long ways into Virginia. I don't know, I don't like it. And my daughter's a taxpayer too, and I think our opinions should count for something.
I hate to see them lose another hospital. That's I'm coming here today for surgery, so because they didn't have no openings in Virginia.
I'd like to see us keep it here. I know we've gone through this plan before, these problems before, and it just seems like we don't address them. And now we're addressing them now, and the people are going to feel loss of jobs, kind of betrayed in a way.
It's an opportunity for us to send the companies a clear message of the support that, that our positions on the issues has with our members.
I think it's very exciting so far. All of the discussions really have focused on two things. One is building a new partnership with the federal government so that states really become equals with the federal government in the solution of problems such as health care. But the area that I'm most concerned about, frankly, is health care. I want to make sure that because Minnesota has, I think, a very good plan online, I want to make sure that we have the flexibility necessary to be able to preserve the integrity of our plan.
Jailers were joined by members of the county board and other officials this afternoon to break ground on the $13 million project, which came in 3% under budget. Faced with an aging downtown jail, overcrowding, and paying rent to other counties to house prisoners, the Sheriff's Department is elated that construction is finally moving ahead.
I think it's the best site. I mean, it certainly is going to meet our needs for the future. We've got a lot of land here. We're kind of isolated. We like jails to be isolated. And we've got room for expansion.
It's always of concern to make sure that you have access and that pedestrian flow and vehicular flow is always open. And we're very happy to report that we've had no problems.
Fairly sophisticated, and a lot more people have started asking for that kind of the physical resource.
Experience that people are looking for when they go to Boundary Waters.
A group of people or many people who want to
this entry point.
We have to protect those qualities that made it wilderness initially, and primarily that's solitude and naturalness, and so that's our first priority.
Groups, lobbying firms, wine and dine public officials.
I'm the crime reporter normally, so.
More than people in the political system. We have to take special interest money away from the process. Nothing wrong with people lobbying and expressing their concerns, but whether money is given in campaign finance contributions or whether it's given as gifts to public officials, we've got to take that out of the system so that issues can be determined on their merits.
Well, the Fridonen farm is like many of the other farms that the Finnish immigrants built after the turn of the century, many of them coming out from the mining communities.
The city and the Fond du Lac Band agreed in 1986 to split casino profits along these lines. The city gets 25.5%, the band 24.5%, and the Duluth Fond du Lac Economic Development Commission gets the rest, a full 50% for economic development on the reservation. However, a 1988 federal law states that at least 70% of profits from any Indian gaming operation must go directly to the tribe. Since then, all Fond du Lac casino profits have been held in the bank. None of the principals in the deal have seen a dime, and the city says it's time to act. Meanwhile, some band members say they propose giving their share of the profits to the tribe to be in compliance with federal law.
There's millions of dollars sitting out there in the bank when that money could be used to meet needs both on the reservation and in the city.
Now, after 5 years of delay, the city is forcing the issue.
I don't know. I would hope that it would be a quick process, because that money, I believe, should go to the band and it should go to the city to take care of needs in both those places.
question is that what I want to do? And secondly, do you want to make me the issue in the campaign? And that's not something I want to do.
Would get a membership in the Health Alliance to you as a consumer, things like that. The things that often you go to Consumer Protection Agency to get. Here, the Alliance is your.
Now it is my turn to respond and to set the record straight. Since being state auditor in 1978, I brought on a whole new management team designed to professionalize that office. You may remember the sensationalized, highly political audits of the past administration. Clearly, the office was in disrepute. We changed that.
We feel that we have approximately $5,000 toward our $10,000 goal.
Hi, you have some flowers. Where would you like them?
Delivering flowers at a Northland hospital isn't what most people would imagine teenagers would be doing on one of their final days of summer, but then again, most people are surprised to find out that 61% of the nation's youth are volunteering during their free time, and officials say that trend is on the rise.
It's a combination of seeing that you can make a difference, a feeling of doing something important and doing something good and helping others. There's a definite give and take when you work with other people and you get a reaction from them that's positive.
And there's plenty of opportunities for young people to help out. Volunteers can be found everywhere from local hospitals to churches. Even animal shelters can use an extra hand.
I try to help people. I deliver things and I do some filing for the nurses.
Well, usually we just write down the flower descriptions and stuff, and then we bring the flowers to the rooms, and you cheer people up and stuff, and it's help others. It's nice.
It was people on welfare. There were no boundaries. Like Terry Nufus and Carla and Russ Paulson for doing that. Please help me in
It benefits the state by providing folks who are better prepared to enter the workforce and become taxpayers, increase the tax base across the country, and it meets the needs of the employers.
And he was elected to the state senate in 1993, serving the 23rd district. He served in Vietnam in the Marine Corps from 1968 to 1970. He's a member of the American Legion, VFW legislative.
It's like this going home. We need it. Where you from? Annandale.
We come into increases, we cannot pass them along without approval from the city council.
We've already seen a drastic drop in the business just from the repairs they're doing right now on the bridge. We were down 45% on our gasoline sales last week over the week before. That sort of indicates what we'd be ahead for us.
The Hammond Spur is already a casualty of the bridge closing. Pat Kluntz owns the business but leases the building from Murphy Oil. With the impact she's already seen and the impact she anticipates with full closure, she had asked for a reduction in rent but didn't get it. The Hammond Spur will close tomorrow at 6 p.m. Other businesses who aren't quite so dependent on drive-by traffic are not quite so concerned.
Right now we're very pleased with the way everything's been coordinated, arranged. As far as how it's going to impact us, we have some promotions planned to hope to help cut the impact.
The Superior Chamber has been working for a year to lessen the impact. It has arranged detours over the Bong Bridge, which will bring traffic right back into the High Bridge exit area.
It's probably not the quickest route, but it's the safest route through the city of Superior, and it will take them past the businesses in the north end.
The designated detour route takes traffic off the Bong Bridge, west onto Belknap for about 2 blocks, then on to Susquehanna, to Winter Street, then back up to Tower, to 5th Street, and out on Highway 2. Motorists will be directed by signs and encouraged to stick to this detour. Some businesses somewhat off the usual beaten path are looking forward a little anxiously to the new traffic route.
Possibly it will help because it's going to divert a lot of traffic by my store, but it might cause a lot of congestion where people will avoid coming to my store.
State, federal, and community dignitaries were on hand for the ceremonies, and while the speeches were light and upbeat, everyone knows this next year is going to be a tough one.
There's going to be some problems. There's no doubt, that's no secret. The people who live on the detour, the people whose children go to school along the detour, the people who travel Belknap.
Superior's mayor said this situation is new to him and to the city, but he promised to do whatever he could to make it as easy as possible for those affected. He encouraged anyone with concerns or problems to call his office.
I hope that you're all patient with us while this process takes place. It's not going to be easy on any of us.
Project supervisors said they've worked hard to keep problems to a minimum and have appreciated the spirit of cooperation in Duluth and Superior. The size of the crowd on hand for the groundbreaking showed the strength of that cooperation.
Normally you don't show up for a road closing or a bridge closing. People sometimes object to those types of things happening.
Workers wasted no time getting at their job. They began moving in the heavy equipment shortly after midnight last night and continued to work right through the groundbreaking ceremonies and the brief rain shower. The rain didn't affect the groundbreaking celebrations either. Senators, congressmen, commissioners, and mayors all got a chance to break a little pavement. When it's finished in about 12 months, the bridge will be a safer structure with wider shoulders, brighter lighting, and emergency telephones. During construction, a detour route has been set up and clearly marked, coming off the Bong Bridge and taking motorists through the city. These first few weeks are probably going to be the worst for drivers as they struggle to get used to the new routes and the extra 20 minutes or so it's going to take them to get where they're going. But once they get accustomed to it, it probably won't be so bad. On the Bong Bridge, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Last one.
Stay and looking around, and it's an exciting time. Well, you know, it's the general election, which will determine who actually sits on the, doesn't mean he won't win. Right. But no. I'm afraid that what is happening is an erosion of the superintendent's credibility. And I don't want to spend the next year on the school board spending my time looking for a new superintendent.
They have to do something so they can stay in business. Why not? You know, and what? Let's say the people I told you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking. You know, I'm not against the elderly people getting their medical care in some facility somewhere. But before they start considering something of this nature, I believe that they should, first of all, eliminate that VA means test and start letting our own veterans get into these facilities first.
firefighters busy this afternoon battling the blaze, a blaze which apparently began in the upper rear of this building.
This is a little hairy simply because in concealed spaces we could ultimately end up losing that whole roof unless we can get in there and get that concealed fire.
The firefighters were able to gain control of the blaze in about 40 minutes. The building, located at 120 West 4th Street, houses a pawn store and a number of apartments. Luckily, no one was injured. But while the fire may be out, officials are still faced with finding its cause.
Details as to the cause of this fire are still sketchy at this point. However, officials with the Duluth Police Department say they have taken a tenant of this building into custody for questioning. It was a woman who had made threats of arson before.
We're talking to her about the fire. We have no idea at this point if it's a arson fire or accidental or what the cause of the fire was.
But you have taken a woman into...
We have been detained, yes, and talked to in reference to the fire.
Okay. Why her?
Apparently she has made threats in the past to burn the building.
The owner of the building, Giselle Kosmowski, says the fire has left her in shock.
We just had new wiring fixed downstairs. Our building was in good shape. The inspectors, I don't know.
What Giselle does know is preliminary damage estimates are more than $100,000, and that it will be quite some time before life is back to normal in her building. In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6. It looked like all of National Steel's 600 striking steelworkers crowded into the Hibbing VFW this morning for an update on contract talks. A strong turnout, but not surprising, not as one worker put it, when jobs are on the line. Dave Foster began the meeting on a positive note.
And we confirmed that 10 o'clock tomorrow morning we will resume negotiations in Duluth.
Negotiations that may be overshadowed by the threat of the plant's closure. On Friday, company officials took a hardball approach, telling union leaders they were seeking a new source of pellets. If a long-term agreement is reached with a supplier at a cheaper cost, the plant could be idled indefinitely. Seen by some as posturing, today Foster tried to calm workers' fears, but admitted the threat was not being taken lightly.
The union obviously is very concerned anytime any management talks about threatening to shut down or close any facility where we represent members. We take those issues very, very seriously. But in the end, the only place where we resolve labor disputes is at the collective bargaining table, and that's what we're attempting to do.
Company officials say they had to seek alternate sources of pellets to protect National Steel's operation.
I'm sure that the company is always willing to discuss contractual issues. But as far as the line being drawn, that line was drawn 15 months ago, and everybody here was made fully aware of that, what that line was. And that line was a 20% reduction, $8 per ton.
The threat of closure could pit one mining company against another as National searches for new pellet supplies. Union officials consider Mintac, Tilden, a Michigan mine, and Avalith the biggest threats because all three taconite plants have pellet reserves. Officials say at this stage of the game, solidarity is key.
It's very important, and I think the tenor of this meeting was that great turnout, and the people who are here are 100% behind their union, 100% behind the people they elected to represent them, and very proud to be the kind of union they are.
Meanwhile, union leaders may bring pressure of their own, including breaking off cooperative partnerships with the company to help reduce costs and legal action. However, union officials admit they'll be walking a fine line when talks resume tomorrow. In Hibbing, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
No discussion on the tabling motion. All those in favor?
Yes.
Councilor Dahlberg. Yes. Councilor Downs. An extra weight behind the engineers who are actually taking the time and who are paid as they sort of came up with this formula. And it's sort of been adopted by different cities, but the whole idea is that 3/4 of it can be looked upon as a benefit to the entire city, and perhaps 1/4 can be looked at as a benefit to that particular property owner who's in front of it. But I think also
hope I understand how to do this. No, I never usually do get it. Thank you. What channel is it? 6 at 6 o'clock and at 10?
5, 6.
Big wave. Nice, smooth motion.
We're the way that people can stay in the community, can keep living in their homes.
When you're home, no one comes very much. All you have to do is look at TV.
Beverly has multiple sclerosis. She lives with her 80-year-old mother, but both need a break now and again. The Benedictine Day Services Center gives her a chance to get out, meet people, and have some fun.
It's a peace of mind because you know she's being taken care of, and a good job is being done with her.
Fred's wife, Merle, has had a series of 3 strokes and still has an aneurysm. She can't be left alone. Fred spends as much time with Merle as he can, but he can't be with her constantly.
He needs a break. It's good for him. It's very good for him. In fact, I encourage him to do more things. And I would just be years at home.
Merle comes to the center 3 days a week. She says it helps her to remain active physically and mentally.
Well, I'm relieved for that day that he's gone because he's living down the Meridian Apartments on his own. And I'd have to run back and forth all the time there.
We're talking on the telephone?
Yeah, he's on the phone all the time.
15 years ago, Dale fell down a flight of stairs and suffered a major blow to the head. He's pretty self-sufficient, but is still quite dependent on his aging mother. He looks forward to the companionship at the center.
To get out of the apartment and to enjoy meeting people and tell jokes.
Adult daycare provides some important services, but perhaps the most important thing it does is to allow people to maintain some degree of independence and dignity while still getting the care they need. At the Benedictine Health Services Center, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Little hand waving up here. Yep.
And a woman who is healthy really doesn't need to have an ultrasound or even other forms of technology to have a healthy baby.
Hi, Faith. How are you?
Good.
How's your baby?
Big.
Moving okay inside?
She was pleased with these.
She was pleased, but mostly
Yeah.
because it just bears out well.
You know, I was talking with one of my partners, and it just pretty much moving in the direction of.
It can get to be a routine, you know, where you automatically would order something, but certainly in low-risk pregnancies, you know, there's often really no indication for an ultrasound.
There's no doubt this summer's near sellout crowds at Wade Stadium were a welcome sight to Duluth Mayor Gary Doty and city officials. A lot was riding on the Northland's enthusiasm for the return of Duke's baseball. But Doty's gamble paid off. Baseball fans turned out in large numbers, and the renovation of Wade Stadium was finished in time for the first game.
Most of it has been done, and I think the city has to be commended on the job that they did with the renovations, and just the transformation from September to June was amazing. I never thought they'd get it done, but they did.
City officials are calling the renovation of Wade a success, although admitting it was an expensive success, needing creative funding solutions, with not everybody happy about donating to the cause. The city's original renovation estimate was $350,000. However, the stadium was in worse shape than expected, and the final bill nearly doubled. The city needed to come up with $340,000. Doty's answer, take 5% of charitable gambling net profits and use it toward renovation costs. But not everyone thinks the plan is a good idea.
Charitable organizations that are into gambling in Duluth have spent millions on city projects that taxpayers haven't had to pay for out of their gambling proceeds, and then come back and force it down their throats, I think is a real bad public relations move.
Atkins says charitable gambling is down around 25%, with casinos taking over a lot of the action. Meanwhile, some small charity organizations say this new 5%, on top of 3% already taken from their fundraisers, is too much.
Now we don't have a choice. We got to give that 5% whether we want to or not. And like I say, I don't care what they want to call it, it's still a tax.
A tax that some worry may increase even more. In Duluth, Dave Jench, News 6.
I think the major point that I wanted to make was the need for health care reform to happen and the need for health care reform to take place in rural Minnesota because of the high number of uninsured that we have.
That's pretty good. Yeah. It's interesting. There's a lot of kite flyers here, a lot of happy faces. That's what it's all about.
This is becoming an increasingly familiar sight in the Northland, the illegal burning of garbage. Some blame rising garbage hauling rates, others say it's the convenience. But for whatever the reason, officials want it stopped.
It's a problem statewide. It's a big problem for us in the Division of Forestry because of the fire hazard. Trash fires are one of the most common causes of fires.
But that's only half the problem. Environmental experts say burning your own trash also raises health concerns.
But it's also unhealthy to you and your family and your neighbors because the fumes from that don't go very far, and you are giving yourselves and your backyard and your area a dose of dioxin that you don't want to give because we're all concerned about those sorts of emissions.
And if that isn't reason enough to stop the illegal burning, DNR officials hope monetary fines will do the trick.
Because running for mayor it's a lot different than running for a city council position. There's a lot of work to be done between now and then. There's a lot of people to talk to. I want to get some of the things that I want to do out. I don't feel it's early at all.
She was over in this lane to turn in there, and that's like the highway patrolman. He said we call that a farmer's lane, but they get way over.
Or heart. So that's where is she gonna recuperate? Is she gonna be able to do the things that she used to be able to do? She always took her friends there at the apartment, some down to the doctor, she'd take them to the clinic and take them grocery shopping, and now
Well, the awarding of the new contract means that we're going to have some technical support staff back here to help our federal scientists get the research done that the country needs and that we've been anxious to accomplish over the last few years. So.
Until 1982. Then I ran for the legislature in 1982, was elected, sir. That was much praised 2 years ago. The public wants answers, and I am giving to the public answers on all of these things. And think about this, ladies and gentlemen, but I will predict that I will be the Republican candidate for governor come June of 1994.
It isn't just an Indian school that people think, well, they're going to be pushing culture. It's an awareness of that culture more than anything.
Really like the way it was. We also have with us Miss Nimi Wynn, Senior Brave, Senior Princess, Melissa Eureka.
And this auditorium doesn't require amplification because the acoustics are so wonderful. Okay. And we're hoping that the community and community groups will find it enjoyable and useful for their purposes as well. Good except for the weather.
And I'm happy that President Clinton is talking about a plan to hold down costs. Things like the family support program. I was the person who made sure that if by the time I run for re-election, after I'm elected governor, if I haven't reduced your property tax on the average home in the state of Wisconsin, I won't run for re-election. Percent of the income and property tax. There's something wrong with that. Hospital revenues have gone up almost 100%. One easily plan that doesn't do very much. One simple reason, he's not willing to church. But rather than me talking a lot more, what I thought I'd do is stop, saves the state money. Because when we keep people out of a nursing
We have heard from the engineering company that they are likely to appeal, so when we would see any actual money, we hope will be relatively soon, but if it does go through an appeal process, we're still talking about many, many months.
How was it? Fine. Piece of cake. Piece of cake.
For many of us, the flu just means a day or two of feeling rotten. But for a growing segment of the population, it can mean death. Every year, flu causes up to 40,000 deaths in the United States, with most of the victims senior citizens.
It's a little cough and cold for healthy people. For these people in the high-risk groups, very often this influenza can lead to severe illnesses such as pneumonia or even deaths at times.
Those in the high-risk group include anyone over 65 and people with chronic heart and lung problems. The best protection against influenza is a vaccination, and health experts say now is the time to get it.
We usually tell people to get a flu shot between mid-October and mid-November, but this year we're encouraging people to get their shots right away.
Health Secretary Donna Shalala is warning that the strain of flu attacking people this year is a particularly tough virus. She says the protection of a shot could save a lot of lives. To encourage immunization, Medicare will pay for flu shots for senior citizens this year.
Flu shots need to be repeated annually because the virus changes, making it resistant to last year's immunization. This year, in order to make it as easy as possible for senior citizens to get their flu shot, the county health department has set up a series of clinics to be held at nursing homes around the region. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
We want to see it brought here and handled properly rather than saying, well, I'll get rid of it by putting it down in the street corner or in the ravine. We're trying to make sure that people have an alternative to do it correctly.
The Northland is all too familiar with the danger of a hazardous material incident. The memory of the benzene spill is still fresh in the minds of many. It is exactly this type of accident the Duluth Fire Department is working to become better prepared for.
We have had an inordinate number, or maybe not based on what they find is going through the area, but a large number of hazardous material incidents up here, and probably one of the largest in the state. And based on that, it seems that we have the need.
That need, officials say, is a need for hazardous material training and safety equipment. The department currently has around 65 firefighters and other members of emergency response agencies attending a long-awaited training program, a program intended to save lives.
Put it down. Put it down. There you go.
Most dangerous things, there's always a possibility of death. You never rule that out. In some materials, it takes a lot to harm a person. In some, it takes a very, very minute amount.
And it is that unpredictability of hazardous materials that makes this type of training so important. However, officials say the training won't be complete unless the firefighters can get the safety equipment they need to do their jobs.
We are not and do not have the equipment that we need to be able to do the types of responses that we'd like to, but we're hoping to build towards that, and this is one of the first steps doing this training.
Accidents like this one at the intersection of Haynes Road and Mall Drive have been occurring at an alarming rate. In fact, there's been 15 collisions here in less than a year. The heavily traveled intersection is clearly marked by 2 stop signs. Authorities say the problem arises when impatient drivers try to enter the flow of traffic on Haynes Road too soon, sometimes with disastrous results.
Just see the setup of the intersection. You got cars coming 45, 50 down Haynes, they're coming 45, 50 from the freeway. Then you got, you know, 2 different roads. People are trying to make lefts and rights, and you got the bank traffic, and it's just a mess.
A mess Crenson and other nearby business owners want untangled before someone is killed. Their concerns have prompted St. Louis County to take action.
As a temporary solution, the county is going to go up and they're going to put stop signs in various different areas. They'll put a stop sign in the middle of the intersection on Mall Drive and Haines. Likewise, there will be no right turn on Highway 53 in Haines.
But some people wonder if a 4-way stop is the answer.
I don't know if stop signs will do it, because people are so used to just whizzing by here. You know, I mean, are you going to see the stop sign? Really? Probably not.
For now, though, the county says stop signs will help prevent the majority of the types of accidents occurring at the intersection. The St. Louis County Traffic Engineers Department says the new stop signs are only a short-term safety measure. For a long-term solution, plans are underway to install traffic lights at the intersection next spring. In Duluth, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
What could be done good for activities and programs and so forth.
Plans are preliminary, but a group gathered at the Marine Museum in Duluth today seemed enthusiastic and confident about getting the vessel. Lieutenant Commander John DeYoung, captain of Duluth's Coast Guard cutter Sundu, has been the catalyst for acquiring the vessel and has found considerable support for the plan in the community.
My preliminary discussions with Coast Guard officials has also given me the impression that it's all systems go. We've got green lights from Coast Guard officials.
DeYoung says the Coast Guard would give the vessel to Duluth for free if it could show it had a strong enough base of support. But there's concern that the Cutter Museum would be in direct competition with the USS Des Moines.
And I'm not sure that a community can sustain, you know, a number of historic craft. We already have the Gaylord and the Meteor in Superior, the Irvin over here. There is a saturation point.
But USS Des Moines project spokesmen say they're not worried about that.
The more ships we can get in this area, the more people are going to have coming to this area to see these ships. The whaleback will benefit, the Irvin will go up, the Coast Guard cutter will also see great attendance, and so will we.
Dodge truck on the corner.
They'll be at my house tomorrow if you turn that camera on. I'm not kidding. In fact, I feel sorry for the woman whose name and address they printed in the telegram, because they'll be back.
Emotions are running high in Superior, where youth violence has residents worried about the safety of their children.
The arena about some people hardly even have a loaf of bread to eat, and that's what we're trying to do, raise some money so they get some food.
15% of all Duluth households will use some type of hunger relief service this year. Officials say they're now seeing less transients using the food services and more local community members. The largest increase is in the number of children who now get at least one daily meal at a soup kitchen. It's these statistics that have many people looking for a way to help. Today, hundreds of Northlanders did reach out to those in need by taking part in Duluth's 9th annual Crop Walk for the Hungry.
And it's a real opportunity for people. We have corporate sponsors as well as churches and people from all walks of life that are here. We've got some people here in wheelchairs today that are out helping out the needy.
Crop Walk began 17 years ago in Bismarck, North Dakota. The fundraiser caught on here in the Northland, and for the past 9 years, people have gathered pledges for their walk for hunger. 25% of all the money raised comes back here to Duluth. The rest of the money goes toward world hunger needs.
Because there's so many problems in the world, and we're walking to stop hunger, to raise money.
Last year, Northland crop walkers raised more than $10,000. This year, they hope to top that total by more than $5,000.
Really get those legs moving. Good. Remember to keep breathing.
3 years ago, Gwen Holter herniated a disc while moving a display at the convenience store where she worked. Her life has never been the same. She tried therapy, she had surgery, but nothing helped. She couldn't sit, stand, walk, lie down, do anything without intense, unrelenting pain.
It did seriously get to the point where I felt that the only way out of the pain was going to be suicide. That would be my only answer, because the idea of living with the pain throughout the rest of my life was not something I could foresee.
People become very despondent about themselves, feel very badly about themselves, and really doubt that the rest of their lives will have any meaning or any quality to it.
Gwen talked with a psychiatrist who discussed the idea of managing her pain, learning to live with it.
I tell them that up to now they've tried the traditional approaches and that nothing more can be done, no more interventions, no more surgery, no more magic medications. And we try to take them at that point and say, if you want to live a life that's more functional, more meaningful, we can help give you the tools.
Gwen became part of Center Therapy's Pain Control Center. No one promised they'd get rid of her pain. They just told her they'd try to help her adjust to it and live with it.
Their belief when they come to us is it's hopeless. And so there are some things that we teach them that will help them gain a greater sense of hope.
The pain control program helps a victim put the pain in perspective. It helps the sufferer learn to function within their limitations and still have self-respect.
You can learn to go on from the pain, and you can learn not to allow it to control your life.
At Center Therapy's Pain Control Center, Barbara Riles, News 6.
We have complex that we have in the bag, though, people carrying on.
I'm trying to find out as much about the circumstances of the accident as can be gathered from the evidence that's available, either here or in archive that describes the historical information on the airplane and the pilot.
that?
I'm a little big, you know.
Tap on his noodle while he was talking to her on camera.
Trying to save the plant is going to be an enormously difficult task. But it's very easy to lose 700 jobs, and it's very difficult to create.
In terms of his behaviors, bad cards, pornography, and so on. And so the sexual behavioral conduct, especially with minors or vulnerable adults, I usually will review some of that with a client before talking to them, just so that everybody knows what the deal is. This may be, doesn't really matter in a sense, whether you're giving it partial deliberately and kind of
The people helping out will realize what a mess it is and that you shouldn't just throw a can on the side of the river. I mean, it all adds up. And also just to make our, Chester Creek look a lot more beautiful than it does right now.
We come down here, I know our group, on our own, we just come down here a couple times during the week and just walk around and pick up garbage. And when we organize an event like this, I'm surprised that there's still so much garbage to pick up. It's quite disgusting, actually.
Cancer benefits are not cut. I certainly recommend that you write to your congressman. It's very important, by the way, is not to leave grandma home to watch the kids while you go for your mammogram. It's very important that grandma comes in and has her mammogram also. Try to see what happens.
Not only is the FLIR system very capable at tracking people that are lost or hiding in rural areas, but it also has some capabilities in drug enforcement.
With the budget crunches being what they are, no, that will not help at that point.
Involved in the process of coming together of community members and the school.
I'd like to know that myself.
Okay, allocated to each building. Building principal would have.
Those ideas do not hold our kids back. For example, in my classroom, any reteaching, any retesting is done at 7 a.m. or at 3 o'clock. We do not do reteaching and retesting during the class hour. We go on in the class.
There's a program coming in. You home grow it. It's your thing. Any change in any program here. Now, your staff development, your teacher.
Either become part of what's already existing or modify
put money into it. That's reality.
St. Louis County Court Probation and Correction Officer, and we have Ty Shore, who's a domestic abuse intervention program counselor who works with that program. And also the first person I will introduce.
More effective than what it is now. We don't need a lot of new programs. We need support of existing programs that are going on. And I'm not
Hierarchical society, the victim is always blamed.
Who's a domestic abuse intervention program counselor or
city anywhere in this country is afraid.
Thanks, Scott Lyons, for what you said. It's important. I think that what I'm going to say is going to go along with what Tuffy said and what everybody is saying. And what comes to light is that Eileen Anderson, yes, knew a lot of people in the Native.
Yeah, your camera crooked though. Yeah.
When they are a lot of energy, and you can't feel the energy. It's
really almost mystical.
Yeah, it's mystical.
That's okay. That's why you're here, to learn all the sweaters. Oh yes. Oh, those are very beautiful. Now this is the baby. This is the baby. The baby stuff. Oh, that's soft. And they're nice and warm. Yes. They kind of wear like. Are they like cotton then, or do they wear like cotton?
What I'm going to do with it, I don't know. I really don't know. So.
On behalf of the 38 Spur stations involved in the promotion and KBJR and Duluth Lawn and Sports, congratulations on winning the $1,000 gift certificates at the Spur station and the new Suzuki ATV. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
A solid metal fence surrounds about 20,000 cubic yards of contaminated soil, water, and sludge. Inside, dead trees and shrubs show just how polluted the area is. The material inside the fence is considered extremely hazardous, containing a variety of pollutants, with most dangerous being lead. It's what's left of an old used oil recycling company that operated just off Highway 53 from 1945 to 1977. After studying the site since 1979, looking for the best possible way of cleaning it up, the EPA, working with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, is finally ready with a plan of action. Tomorrow at a special public meeting, people will get a chance to hear about it and make comments.
What they should get from the meeting is a presentation by the EPA on what they intend to do to clean up the site. This would be their latest version of what they want to do, and hopefully the final version.
Over the years, several plans have been suggested, but the pollution agencies now have what they feel to be the most effective and safest way of cleaning up the site. 18,000 cubic yards of lesser contaminated material will be excavated and trucked to a federally approved disposal site in the Twin Cities. The remaining 2,000 cubic yards are considered extremely hazardous. One proposal is to bring in an incinerator and burn the material on site. Another option calls for it to go through a process of re-refining on site. That entails liquefying it, which will separate out the lead, additives, and other contaminants. The unleaded oil that's left may then be sold as fuel. The concentrated contaminated material will be either burned on site or taken to a lead smelting facility. The plan will cost about $25 million and includes not only cleanup, but maintaining and monitoring the site for many years to come. Environmental experts estimate it will take about 40 years after cleanup before the old Arrowhead refinery site is finally pollution-free. In Hermantown, Barbara Riles, News 6.
We have talked in negotiations about trying to change later because there was an insurance committee meeting today. You may want to be able to make, your perspective or your point from the city has consistently been that the employees have been very, very patient. But I've been sensing a real growing frustration that we can't come to some kind of resolution about the problems that we're facing, get a contract signed, and get on with the business of providing the services that we were hired to do.
I've been endorsed by the Twin Forks people. I've been endorsed by the Duluth News Tribune to talk about the issues the city faces.
Call it distasteful and suggest that it's dirty politics. Do you think he has misrepresented you on...
Greg's decision to use attack politics and to twist the truth shows a regrettable lack of integrity. Because of this distasteful turn in the campaign, I find it necessary to set the record straight.
Do you feel like your friendship is disintegrated, as you suggested? Did we cover pretty much what you said in here?
Pretty much. I think David has to understand that running for city council is not like discussing politics over coffee.
If you've ever driven by this store, you've probably seen two big, beautiful cats sitting in the window. The Pet Place in the Plaza Shopping Center has been home to Nadia and Nero for over 12 years. When they were just 6 weeks old, a man left the cats at the store, and they've made it their home ever since.
A good portion of the population, whether or not they're pet owners, have been in here to pet the cats. They have a following of people from many areas of the country. Each summer, certain tourists that visit Duluth once a year stop here to see Nero and Nadia. It's tough to even think about not having them.
But Pet Place owner Barb Lenzen has no choice. She says she can no longer afford to keep the store open, and she can't have pets in her apartment, so she's looking for a good home for the sibling kitties.
The ideal situation is that, number one, that they find an excellent home together as a twosome. They're sister and brother, they've always been together.
The Pet Place will close by tomorrow at 5:30. If the cats haven't found a permanent home, they could end up at the pound.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Nadia and Nero are used to people and will adapt well to a new home and new people who love them. Barb has a lot of things to worry about, with tomorrow being the last day before the store closes. But the thing she's concerned about most is finding a good home for the cats. Once they're taken care of, she says she'll be able to relax and enjoy her retirement. At the pet place in Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
As I went down and I was listening to the other girls and other people who were trapped crying and screaming out for help, I just didn't know what to think. I just held it all inside, and I tried to just have faith that somebody would find me and help me.
Oh, sure. They saw him and decided. Hi there. How's the big... Yes?
Me, Barbara. Aren't you that pretty kitty? Yes, you are.
Gosh, you know your name, don't you, Nadia?
They'll have the run of the upstairs, the apartment, and they'll feel free whenever they wish to come down into the retail part of the pet store, which I'm sure they'll spend a lot of time in because they are accustomed to a lot of people visiting them and stuff.
I'm really happy about this, Lee. You know I am. I'm just happy. I'm so glad you're getting them.